Hi there. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah, and I think the central piece of today's trade would be, or the last 24 hours, would be the return of volatility across the board, I might add. Now, you can argue that it's not as much pronounced in the equity markets as it was in maybe crypto, but I'll nevertheless bring up all the data points for you. So CBOE VIX, for example, inched up in trade yesterday and now is trading at a level of 18.14. So there was a bit of a spike in CBOE VIX as well. You have to look at the Bitcoin's charts in the last 24 hours. And yes, there were idiosyncratic moves led to because of El Salvador, as a result of which Bitcoin had a big crack. It actually fell nearly, not even 10%. Intraday fell maybe more than 17% before recovering a little bit. But yes, there was significant volatility. And by the way, not volatility necessarily, but there is a return of the yields as well on the US side. I think inching over the 1.35 mark. Yeah, 1.36 now currently the yields. So the bonds sold off. Dollar was steady and rallied a little bit, but volatility is indeed inched back in the world markets. Keep in mind, this is also an important week because Joe Biden will consider the decision of reappointing Jerome Powell or no. I reckon the markets might like continuity, but it'll be an important decision to watch out for this week as well in terms of whether we have Jerome Powell staying on as the Fed chief or no. What about the markets? There was a bit of a pullback. Nasdaq was okay, but Dow and the S&P certainly came off in trade yesterday. So there was a bit of a pullback for the US markets for sure. This shows you the green because it's the Nasdaq and that was steady, but the Dow and the S&P certainly came off. And I think Asia today has a mixed picture. So Nikkei was doing okay, but the ASX, the Kospi, and some of the others had certainly come off in early morning trade. Even now, the Nikkei is doing okay, but some of the others have a tinge of red to themselves. The SGX Nifty should come up on your screen next, and we already know that aside of Reliance and a couple of others, the very few participants coming in. Therefore, it'll be interesting to see if we can inch on higher from these levels or no. For now, it's showing a positive bend. Let's wait and watch if that lasts. A quick check of what happened in trade yesterday. The MOE function should come up on your screen next to just show you how the trade was. So 165 advances to 334 declines. So clearly the broader end of the spectrum came off a little bit. And the big gainers of the last few days, real estate, came off very rapidly. I still believe that this is a bout of profit booking. And the conversation that you will hear today from Brigade Enterprises on Talking Point, as well as some of the others, and I know this because it's a recorded conversation, but some of the others that we've done as well seem to be pointing towards continued stability in sales for real estate. So this might be a bout of profit booking that could have happened. There's some strength in Vodafone Idea. There's some strength ahead of an announcement maybe today, which we'll talk about. But yeah, that entire bucket, telecom, was doing very well. There's some select names on the Sterling Wilson Solar because of a news announcements that come in the ET today about whether the promoters will consider stake sale was up and about. IRCTC continues to ride higher, so extremely strong show put up by that one as well. So good going individually in idiosyncratic moves, but otherwise not a pattern that we saw in the gainers yesterday. Yes, we did see real estate coming off, but on the gaining side, we didn't see too much of a pattern. Now, what to watch out for today? I was talking about why Vodafone or a Bharti or an Indus Towers, etc. All of them were doing okay. There's a cabinet meeting at 11 a.m. today. Textiles as well as telecom remain in focus. Textiles, we all know that there is going to be something done, but there's also some media reports about how telecom, the benefits to telecom might also be considered in the session today. And I think there's some media reports also suggesting that auto PLI will be slashed by about 50%, the announcement of which might come in the next 3 days. Now, if that happens, maybe it could be a slight negative for select auto companies, but it's just an outlay really, and the outlays can be increased later on as well. So you never know. This might be tactical readjustments from the government when it comes to PLI schemes, because remember, I mean, the country has a limited purse to be given out even to PLI schemes as well. So let's wait and watch. Therefore, in light of all of this, you probably have a flattish start, maybe marginally higher, and a lot of specific movers in the session today. Keep in mind that Sterling Wilson, which was up about 6%, the Economic Times is reporting that the promoters are likely to sell stakes. So that could be that big mover in trade. But aside of that, on reported news, 3 or 4 pieces that I wanted to bring. Firstly, life insurance stocks. The data came out for new business volumes, which are strong. I mean, 40% YOY growth for the space at large, private insurers, in individual new business annualized premium equivalent. So NBAPE, that's what the term that you hear, but the new business annualized premium equivalent went up to about 40%, which led to a 2-year CAGR of about 15% versus 10% seen in the month of July. So the 2-year CAGR volumes are improving, and that shows how strongly the months of August have contributed, and subsequent months contribute as well. And the CAGR numbers look very, very strong. Now, what would this mean essentially for individual companies, right? You have to think about it, that if the averages are 40%, then anything which scores above that is great. Anything which scores below might be okay. And particular focus on a 2-year CAGR would be very, very important. So SBI Life recovered very, very sharply. I think that's the standout, really. 67% YOY growth. That's very, very strong. So they've shown a recovery from the COVID lows very sharply, the way it did the last time as well. Even in the last COVID wave, post-COVID one, SBI Life was the one that recovered the fastest. So very strong show there. HDFC Life, well, 27% growth, which is, you can argue it's a strong one compared to averages, not as much. Let's see if the Exide Life acquisition, and once it gets consummated, adds a bit of a sting to HDFC Life's growth as well. Max Life was a disappointment. They've been witnessing some moderation, as I read in a report, with a 9% growth right now, but the 10-year, 10%, just the 2-year CAGR is also only about 10%. So Max Life, a bit of a moderation, you have to say, from the earlier highs that we had seen in the last quarter of the last financial year. Somehow Max Life seems to have missed a trick or two of late. ICICI Prudential delivered 34% strong YOY growth, but the 2-year CAGR, viewers, is still down about 3%. So net, I haven't given you a 2-year CAGR numbers out here, but if you look at it, ICICI Pru may not bounce as much despite the 34% growth because the 2-year CAGR is weak. Max may actually disappoint a bit. HDFC Life, 27% growth, nothing spectacular, but the 2-year CAGR is strong. So therefore, that may remain steady. SBI Life may actually show a positive number today on the bourses because the growth was very strong. So let's wait and watch if that happens. Then the other set of data points that came out was the pharma IPM growth. And I just want to bring out that piece as well. So the IPM growth for August stood at about 17.7% overall. Again, higher than the previous 2 months, but what you have to look at is the statistic about which companies have outperformed that 17.7 and which have underperformed. So that's the key point, right? So look at this. IPCA, 38.55%, very strong. Indoco Remedies, 32%, very strong. Dr. Reddy's, 26%, stronger than the averages. Cipla, unfortunately, a disappointment, 12.6%. And the reason I bring Cipla up is this is 2 months in a row now that Cipla has had a moderation in growth. And therefore, that might not be taken too kindly by the markets. Let's wait and watch. Natco Pharma, I read somewhere with negative 31% growth. So there's a bit of a disappointment as well. So do watch out for insurance as a pack. There could be some movers. Pharma is a pack that could be some movers. Then I'll watch out for Delta Corp. The casino operated by the company in Kathmandu will reopen starting today. Frankly, I couldn't quite look at the numbers to figure out what percentage of revenues coming from the Kathmandu casino for Delta Corp overall. But the larger point being, I think that this will not be as big a positive as Goa. I think a lot of people yesterday were banking on the Goa casino announcements coming in. So actually there could be a bit of a disappointment as well because there could be some selling coming in on that. But I think what you got to watch out for Delta Corp is the reopening thing and how well does it augur. I would urge all of you to be very, very cautious when you're betting on reopening plays because nothing is certain. So be very, if you're trading Delta Corp today, you don't necessarily want to go in and buy it at a high if it opens well. So please keep that at the back of your mind. Electra Green Tech, it's a company that not much is known about aside of the fact that it's into EV buses, electric buses, and therefore it's actually the talk of fancy. Not too many people know about the numbers, etc. But here's the deal today, or yesterday rather, the deal that happened, the block that happened was very interesting. Nomura India Investment Fund bought about 8.2 lakh shares, which is 3.44%. And the promoters actually sold this. Now, a lot of times promoter selling is viewed negatively. In some cases, if a fund wants a stock, there is nobody else who can give that kind of a number, but the promoters themselves. And the promoter wants a large, smart investor on board. So this could well be that kind of a deal. I have no idea. But this is an interesting one because Nomura India investment fund bought in about such a large stake. So that could be interesting. I read somewhere, and the source, of course, in the article was NOAA, that the Indian shrimp exports to US have risen and the market shares have gone up as well. So I would watch out for Avanti Feeds, Godrej Agrovet, Waterbase. All of these stocks could be in focus today. So that's the other pack that I would most certainly watch out for in the session. So therefore, that's the key thing as well. I was just trying to see if there are some brokerage notes which were interesting. I thought the Jeffries note on OMCs was interesting because they have said that HPCL is attractively valued at 1 times price to book compared to the last cycle peak of 3.2 times price to book, and the valuation is attractive as well after the recent correction. So watch out for HPCL. If indeed there is some juice out there, it could well be because of the Jeffries note. So that's the last one that I thought I will bring to you in terms of brokerage notes. Before we wrap up, keep in mind these new SEBI rules. So now SEBI's allowed, let's put it that way. It's not a rule, but the SEBI is allowed the T+1 settlement for stocks. It's up to the exchanges to figure out if they want to comply with this or not, or want to take this up or not. But effectively, what does this mean? A lot of you would have heard this, the T+1. What does this mean? I'm sure most of you know. For the limited few who might not know, and it's okay to not know, let me just try and explain that until now, the settlement was T+2, which means that typically if you buy a stock, yeah, whether you're trading online brokers or you're doing through a full service broker, you get the stock in your demat account after 2 days. So if you bought it today, that is Wednesday, you'll get the stock in your account on Friday. Now, some conservative brokers might tell you that if you bought it, don't sell it, because what if it's not come into your account and then you're going to get the whole rigmarole of auction, etc. So what SEBI said, that we are allowing for T+1 settlement. If exchanges are willing to take it up, then if an investor buys the stock today, it will be in her or his account tomorrow itself. So that's a big change. I think one of the few countries which will allow this, maybe the only one, a large country. The other bit is, of course, what will happen is that if you sold a stock, remember your broker will tell you that पैसा 2 दिन के बाद आएगा. Now it could technically come the very next day, and that's actually a great thing as well. So for a lot of people who use full service brokers, and the money used to come in, 80% used to come in after 2 days, this will come in early. So this is a big thing if the exchanges adopt it. Let's see if they do. SEBI is certainly allowed, and I think it's a landmark moment of sorts. So therefore, I wanted to wrap up today's trade setup with that piece of news. So keep in mind, viewers, this SEBI news is big in terms of movers, some pharma names, some insurance names, maybe a Delta Corp, maybe a Sterling Wilson Solar, maybe HPCL. And these are the some that came to my mind. I'm sure there are things that I've missed, but yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of stocks that I thought were very important and deserve to be brought to you. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a safe day ahead. If you're stepping out, please stay masked up.